problem with him personally. But this was an album that had a lot to prove. This band had died a severe death 3 albums before it. Never Say Die and Technical Ecstasy and the album before it, you know, were virtually passed over. You know, I'm not coming to comment on how good or bad they were, but they were passed over. And then suddenly came this album that changed around yet again, just like this album here. It's, again, always considered to be classic albums, these two. Very, very classic albums. This one did the same. It made Sabbath important again. It showed that these guys here were not a bunch of musical fools, that Tony and Geezer and Billy were really good players, and that they could do things that nobody thought they could do. And it started heavy metal, you know, up a little bit again. This was a great album to me. I loved making this album. It took a long time, like all Sabbath albums do, but it was one of the albums of which I'm most proud. This one and this one, and now are 2 of the ones I'm most proud of. You're going to show me some more here in a second, so let's go on.
Mob Rules.
The Mob Rules, again, a very underrated album, I thought. Excellent album. Great songs on it. Very, very well played. Produced by Martin Birch, who did, of course, the Rainbow albums for us and did the Heaven and Hell album. A great album. Again, very, very underrated and overlooked. But, again, kind of the beginning of the end, this one.
Beginning of the end.
The end. This was the end. This was the end, yeah. I had really nothing to do with the end of this particular project. We started to do this one together. But because this had now become a war between Tony and myself, and Geezer, of course, sided with Tony, and then they thought that Ozzy, or that, I keep mentioning that jerk off, that Vinny was on my side for some reason, that because we were friends, that it meant that he had to be out of the band too. So, you know, when I went, Vinny had to go too. Yeah, this was the beginning of the end. This was an album. This is a very untrue live album. This is the album so completely unlike this album, which is an album that you play, you record, and you give it to people. This one, we played, then took it in the studio for 6 months, and everything was replayed. Not mine, not Vinny's, but somebody did. Don't know who. But that one, piece of shit. Gotta tell the truth, man. You know, I feel like telling the truth today. Brilliant album. Brilliant album. Again, this one goes with Rainbow Rising and Heaven and Hell. Another album that knocked people back. Went, whoa, what's this all about? Great album. Great players. Liked each other a lot. Vivian, wonderful player. You know, burst upon the scene. This real special kind of player that he was. This was a wonderful album. One of my favorites. Another great album. Great album. Brilliant. You know, as good as this one. Probably better album than Last in Line. But maybe with just a little bit less fire, perhaps. Because we were getting, you know, it's starting to get beginning of end time again, you know. It's a shame, but personalities do have a lot, you know, to do with it. But this was a great album. One of the most fun I've had making an album. We made this album up in the Rocky Mountains up in Colorado, and it was just absolutely one of the most fun times I've ever had in my life. Great album. Sacred I think was a hell of an album. I thought it was a really excellent album. Again, another underrated album, but it was a time when Vivian was just about ready to fly the coop and do whatever he wanted to do. I don't know what that was he wanted to do. He didn't really feel part of the band concept, perhaps. But it was a good album. It was a hard one to make because he had to draw a lot of things out of Vivian for that one. They had to kind of talk him into really playing well on this one. And it's a shame because he was so capable. This was the end of the Vivian era. And of course, in the middle of this tour, we did 2 tours with this album. And in the middle of that tour, Vivian was gone after Christmas time, and then Craig Goldie came in. And Craig Goldie now will be playing on this album, the Dream Evil album, which again was another unhappy album. Unhappy because the rest of the guys in the band weren't convinced that Craig Goldie was the right player for this band. And perhaps at the end of the day, he wasn't. I still will always give Craig the respect that he's due. He's a hell of a player. He's a hell of a musician. He deserved better than that from the people who played in this band. So I won't be part of that. They just didn't happen to like him. I do, and I think he's a great player. So what the hell do they know? There you go. Lock Up the Wolves, I thought, was a really exceptional album. I thought it was exceptional because of all the things that we had to overcome. This album was written right till almost to the end of the day with Vinny still in the band, and then Vinny left at the end of it, and rightfully so. He just wasn't comfortable in all the changes that had been made anymore, and felt that, you know, it wasn't the same that we had started. So we wanted to do something else, and that's cool. So we repopulated the band, but we repopulated the band with a guy I think is one of the greatest musicians I've ever known in my life. He was only 16 years old when he came in the band, Rowan Robertson. The kid is phenomenal musician. I'll never find anybody, I think, better than him as a musician. He is just the best. And the greatest person I know, too. I love him to death. He's got a new band called Violet's Demise. It's going to do great. It's got a great album. It's going to be brilliant. And he deserves all the success. But it was a good album. It was a good album. But it was an album we were trying to reinvent ourselves again. You know, we were witches and wizards here and there and Born on the Suns and stuck here and there. And it just didn't work. You know, we were living in a time that was 5 years past. So that's no one's fault but my own. But it was a good album. And it's a great sounding album, and it was fun to make. So there it is. Lock up those wolves. Dehumanizer, an album I thought was going to be the beginning of what I thought was going to continue to go on. I thought we'd probably all end up finishing our careers with this album. But, you know, like anything else with Sabbath, we didn't have a problem. We created our own. And so we created a lot. This album took about 1.5 years to do, from beginning to end. An album shouldn't take that long. It just shouldn't do. But, you know, everything got real political. And that at the end of the day was, you know, more the reason why it ended than anything else. You know, it was political, what I told you about in the beginning with doing the Ozzy shows. And at the end, no one wanted to talk about it. There was no communication. Again, no matter what anyone tells you, no matter what lies Tony Iommi or Geezer Butler have made up for themselves now, we never talked about this. We were on a bus just like this. They stayed in the back, and I stayed in the front. Sorry, I didn't want to do that, but that's the way they chose to do it. So, you know, next time, if you get a chance to talk to them, don't let them bullshit you. Don't let them say, oh, I don't want to talk about it. Ask them the real questions. Did you really talk about that? Well, the answer is no. And then play them that next time. So I can talk to you guys. You never talked about it, did you? And you blew the best band there ever could have been on the face of the earth, you stupid assholes.
We got Dio again.
That's a great album. This is the best album, I think, since Holy Diver Last in Line for Dio. Without a doubt. In my opinion, better than both of them. Better than both of them. The band is more focused in what they're doing. We all knew exactly what we wanted to do. Tracy was the guitar player that this band always should have had. Always. Jeff Pilson's the bass player of this band. Always should have had. Luckily, me and Vinny stayed together, so that helped a lot. This is a great album. This is a great album that's will go down in history as, whoa, man, what an underappreciated album. This will be the Mob Rules of the Dio albums, probably. And it's unfortunate because it deserved a lot more attention than it got in this world. But it'll all come back, you know. It'll get its attention eventually because someday someone's going to go, gee, how come there's no good music anymore? And he'll say, well, why don't you listen to that one and you'll find out why. It's a great album, a great album. I'm most proud of this album of all the ones I've ever done. It's a great album. Is that it? They haven't made any more? Where's intermission? Hey.
Can't find it.
Can't you really?
I got one.
Oh, I'll finish it. Don't worry.
What's your opinion on, there's going to be like 2 things that we can put in a separate show.
Sure.
Opinion on sleep.
On sleep?
Yeah.
Sleep in general? Sleep?
Yeah.
I'm not really much of a sleep kind of person. I think sleep's a pretty much of a waste of time. I mean, eating and sleeping don't really make an awful lot of sense to me. I mean, you sit there and you shove things in your mouth and then, you know, not too long after that it all goes out the other end. You know, that was real important, wasn't it? I guess it keeps you alive, but sleep, nah, I'm not really much into sleep. I don't dream an awful lot. My dreams are dreams of the day. You know, I dream as a conscious person. So sleep, like eating to me is a necessity that I wish didn't have to be around. So, you know, 4 or 5 hours of it is enough.
Another topic is hate.
Well, that's unfortunate. Hate is unfortunate. I think that is the reason why this world has become what it's become. We have racism because of hate, not because of love. We have all of the bad things, I think, in this world because of hate. But we are human beings, and I think once we realize that we are the cancer that's been put on this earth by whatever power there be, if there is one. I personally don't believe there is one, but we're going to talk in religion now, are we? I think that hate is a real necessity, unfortunately. I can only tell you in these terms. Without evil, there's no good. Without good, there's no evil. Without hate, there's no love. You got to have a balance somewhere. It's unfortunate that people hate so much, but again, we, the cancer that is humanity, have created that, and it's a necessity for us. It's like eating and sleeping, but it's not something that I would condone. Hate is not is unfortunately an emotion that we have to live with, but shouldn't be around. But it is.
And now we need 2 tags. The show is called Mind Meld Video. We need 1 regular and 1 evil.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Ronnie James Dio.
So just before you do this, guys, it's just that all Jeff's family are here, and I need to get to
Oh,
the back.
yeah,
okay.
sure. Don't worry about it. Yeah, you should have. I thought you wanted something else.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
okay.
no
I'll edit
problem.
that.
We can edit.
Yeah.
You got to edit out all those horrible things I said about everybody.
Yeah.
Leave them in. I don't give a good shit. I'll tell you the truth.
That's
I don't.
good.
It's time
That's
to tell
good.
the truth, you know?
I mean, if you have 20 here, I'll play in this. That's why I ask questions.
Fine,
We did this
please
interview,
do.
And this is